actual neuron. If possible, the brain will work to form neuronal connections around the damaged neurons, if possible, to help lessen the trauma of it. But there's a lot that gets involved in that. When long-term memory forms and we have the presynaptic connecting to the postsynaptic and the changes are allowed to occur, what happens is the actual cytoskeleton in the postsynaptic neuron changes. Memories, note this right here, can become more permanent or less permanent. When we have something, okay, for example, I'll give you for example. I lost my son 7 years ago, very tragically. And it has taken this long. It's now 7 years past the event for any of that to actually be lessened in my brain. I've actually suffered PTSD from it. And I know what is having to be occurring in my brain for it to become a lesser event. Wouldn't say that a lesser event. For the feelings and the emotions and everything else associated with it to be lesser. It takes a long time. In the case of something extremely traumatic, it takes a long time. But the brain can do it. All right? Now, when we look at this memory that can form, okay, sometimes we might form an engram. Ever heard of that? A trace, okay? It's almost like, well, maybe I did this piece of it, maybe I did this part today, and tomorrow I'm going to do this one, and then the next day I'm going to do this, and the next day I'm going to do this, so that in the end I'm going to have my beautiful structure. But I didn't do it all at one time. And so I came back and I worked on it. I built on information. It was almost like I had a trace until I had the structure that I wanted. So memory engrams, okay, can help transfer something short-term to long-term. For example, maybe learning how to paint, all right, doing it piece by piece by piece, and to the point where it's now long-term memory. Our emotions, which are associated with different areas of the brain, and we can also have emotions from the primitive region. And sometimes in those primitive regions, if trauma occurred, it actually makes that individual a different emotional individual. So, we're going to find that emotion is an interaction between my higher order area and areas of my primitive brain. Our prefrontal, all right? This is our seat of judgment, right and wrong, as we know it, intent to actually carry something out, and the expression of emotion. This is where we decide how to appropriately let feelings show. Road rage. Heard it? Experience it? Have it? Might even be able to have it like just pushing a buggy through a snowstorm. Do you carry out the activities that go through your brain as you're having the road rage? Hopefully you all don't. Okay? That's because even though that rage, that road rage, is actually from areas of the primitive region, we've got the area in the higher order to override. So that ability to control emotions, it's there. It's just a matter of do you want to use it or not. That amygdala, gotta love that term. I mean, is that not the coolest? It's almost like medulla oblongata. This is an area, once again, of the limbic system, gets a lot of processed information. Gets it from general senses, special senses, and it helps mediate the emotions. For example, something tastes really bad. Give you something to taste, and have you ever been given something so bad that you have to run out? Yeah. All right. Believe it or not, that's all these areas. The primitive region, a higher region, and then an amygdala, okay? And basically you're getting you can actually be getting a visceral response to it. Like sometimes an odor can be so bad that it's almost like, and then you're like, oh no, I got it in my mouth. And and you're like, oh. And for some people, they can actually get visceral responses to this. Well, like I said, there's a lot that the frontal area will help with, and injury to this region can affect it. And it's really interesting because our personality as a whole is dependent on these areas working and being intact.
So for little kids, like, they don't hold their tongue at all. So if they don't like something, like my little sister will say, this is nasty. I can't take her to pizza house.
Now, well, no. Okay, so it comes down to the ability for teaching and learning. So it comes down to, like, growing up like I did, I mean, you said or did something wrong in someone else's house or in public, so you learn not to do that, okay? We have to think about how teaching and learning is now occurring. Now, sometimes it can be situations where it's just bad behavior. Sometimes it can be situations, yes, people have problems or brain injuries or other issues that are going on. But our personality is based on all of these being intact, making all those connections that we have, and in the frontal region, having proper control of the emotions. Sometimes that's hard to do. Now, do you guys remember, because now that we can have information go in, we get responses to come out, we've got to deal with all this sensory information. The responses that go out are going to be motor responses, whether that means it's going to a muscle or a gland. But do you remember when we had the brain out on Tuesday and I showed you guys the central sulcus? Okay? And I was like, this is going to come back to us. And I showed these gyri on each side of that central sulcus. You guys remember that? Well, if we look at this as our central sulcus, and I look at my gyri, look at how they're trying to show the different colors that are present here. And look at what they're terming each of these areas. If I follow to this gyri, which is going to be in front of that central sulcus, that's also meaning pre. Is that correct? So this part, this gray gyri, this portion is going to be pre. To this side of it, post. Well, what is that going to mean? Areas of your brain are going to pick up different inputs. When we look at this cortex, this area that is this grayish outer portion of the cerebrum, well, like I said, we have sensory information that goes in, and then we'll have motor information that goes out. Sensory information, all those senses, special and general, okay? I'm going to have what's termed my primary somatic sensory cortex. This is also for my general sense. All of this stuff that's out here. Primary somatic sensory, general sensory. See this light green area right here? That's it. This is the part that's going to be for general sensory input. I'm getting stuff for pain, pressure, hot, cold, all of that through this area right here of my brain. When I look at this, I've got a taste area, olfactory, auditory, visual. What? Those are my special senses. This is information that has to go in. Information that has to be processed. So, if I've got general and special, alright, we've got this little area right here. Wernicke, anybody ever heard of that one? Okay, that's for speech. They're trying to show me this area right here for the visual, this visual. As I look up through here, I've got the area for my taste. So I've got a lot of areas that are bringing information in. And then we've got to associate it so that we can recognize it. So we're going to have areas for association. Going to have it for those senses, all of those senses. Note the colors that they're associating with that. Note the color.